most of us here are from the left, and we are angry.
I've condensed it. I said basically in the beginning that I was raised on the tolerant left. I used to be an ally. So like most, when COVID hit, I ended up chronically online. It was during that time that I finally saw just how deranged the left had become. But there was no way around it. My tolerant left had gone and lost its fucking mind. Trading intolerance chips for totalitarianism, for some shut up, get on your knees and comply. Misogyny, that slimy hand around women's throats that I saw as a child, misogyny had had a revamp. It was glamorous now, all sparkly. It had some flags and new allies. Violent beta males wearing hankies on their faces, giving a wink and a nod to their comrades while screaming down women who just don't fancy having girl dick shoved in their daughters' faces in the change rooms at the pool. Their green-haired 20-something female conspirators feeling righteous while shielding trans-identified men who'd raped little girls and then had their chance with female inmates while imprisoned with them against their will. Freshly anointed trans women athletes mopping the tracks and stalls of the blood, sweat and tears of female athletes who they'd beaten, those tirelessly dedicated women from whom they'd stole. Women were just a feeling. We weren't mothers anymore, we were birthers. I hadn't breastfed for 3 long fucking years. Sore and overtouched breasts, loving but dazed and tired from sleepless nights. I chest-fed for inclusion. Our lesbian and gay friends weren't allowed same-sex attraction. Their orientation was just a genital preference for backwards boomers, too vanilla and hate-filled to enjoy someone's vagina without wincing or take that organic strap because it's real and so it's better, ladies. Now suck it. Pedophiles had had a rebrand too. Minor attracted people they were, stunning and brave and here to stay. And if we made a peep about it, we were alt-right fascists, or the slightly lesser charge, alt-right fascist adjacent, because apparently safeguarding children is violent. Protecting their little bodies is far right. I used to be an ally, but now after having my compassion as a woman weaponized against me, being abused by filthy misogynists and their tragic brainwashed handmaidens, watching our lesbian sisters have to fight again for men to get the fuck out of their bedrooms and social spaces. Reading of countless women and children getting raped and discarded by decrepit autogynephiles wearing woman face like it's our skin, and watching all of those trans folks and trans allies kick back and just deny, denouncing detransitioners like they were the new suppressive persons and thus all but the scum of the earth, yet not a word about the sick and twisted men claiming womanhood who were harming us, representing them in their name, no less. And not a side glance, of course, at all the trans-identified women and girls, forcing nothing, forcing no one save for the muscle and sinew to be cut from their bodies for the sake of simulacrum. It's funny that. I'll politely state for the record it's my preference not to be called a cis woman. I don't qualify my existence in relation to another's, which is especially the case for narcissistic Trojan horses. I will be referred to as a woman, as a female, as a feminist, and not their brand of feminist, but my own. Because women far stronger than us fought long and hard for us to be standing here, and there isn't a misogynist alive who has the chops to change my mind. But they'll call me a TERF regardless, and I'm at the point where I just don't fucking care. Your ad hominems, they're no good here. You can't cash in that guilt by association. Your redirections, projections, smear campaigns, mistruths, and flying monkeys they all alter course and land squarely back on you, because reality defines who I am, who we are. I exclude no females from that shared reality, not one. All are welcome here, and welcome to return, even those handmaidens, especially the handmaidens, because they won't always be safe from those pitchforks that they're wielding. They're not men, so they're disposable. And if they speak out in turn, then they'll get turned on too. We've been through worse, and we've survived because we're women. We're built different. We're observed, not assigned. And nothing enrages a misogynist more than a woman saying no while insisting that she knows her own mind.
The other reason that I said he was rocking up was to support the rally. Often, when I go to rallies, it's because I agree with the stuff that they're saying. Like if I...
It is not good enough for the school to teach.
So he is supposed to be helping her right now.
Economy and globalism for our children. The reason why we are...
Fucking stupid. On Saturday, March 18th, 2023, women's rights campaigner Kelly J. Keane held a demonstration in Melbourne, Australia, which I attended. This event was gatecrashed by a group of neo-Nazis who performed Nazi salutes on the nearby steps of Parliament House. One media outlet has attempted to report that Keane's Let Women Speak event had collaborated with that group of Nazis. However, this media outlet was forced to issue an apology and a retraction. At the moment, Kelly J. Keane is in the process of suing the leader of the Victorian branch of the Australian Liberal Party, John Pesutto, for defamation in response to him alleging that she is associated with neo-Nazis. More recently, I was arguing on Twitter with a gender spiritualist about their claim that the LWS demonstration was a Nazi rally. While researching for this debate, I learned new things about the events on the day, and it occurred to me that it would be useful for people in general to have a more complete picture of what happened, one that they could easily verify. Up until now, one of the major problems has been that the events surrounding the day were chaotic and involved at least 5 separate organised groups and 3 to 4 different demonstrations. This means that it's fairly easy for isolated clips or images presented out of context to facilitate false narratives. I am reminded of one of the classic examples of the limitations of still photography, which can be seen in this picture of the shooting of protesters at Kent State University in 1970. Which famously gives the false impression that people were casually strolling by the dead bodies of fellow students. Fortunately, the Melbourne demo had 3 concurrent live streams. Individually, they provide a lot of information, but combined with a map, other pieces of footage, and my own experience of having been there, I felt like I could start to present a fairly accurate picture of what occurred. To begin, Kelly J. Keane had planned a tour of Australia and New Zealand. Melbourne was the 5th of 7 stops in Australia. In my opinion, the events surrounding the Melbourne demonstration began when 2 months prior to the action, one of the Melbourne LWS organisers...
Angela Jones is a lifelong women's rights campaigner, a feminist and an old-school lefty. Founder and co-host of YouTube's Turf Talks, she was the organiser of the infamous Let Women Speak Melbourne rally. And despite her credentials in the trade unions and her family background as an Ashkenazi Jew, she was subsequently caught up in the media firestorm that ensued from the rally. Thank you, Angela.
I am here today because I refuse to believe the ridiculous notion that a man is a woman because he says he is. And for that, I have been demonised and defamed as a private citizen by the most powerful men in Victoria. When you associate someone with Nazis, it is an incitement of violence against that person and everyone associated with them. The dishonest conduct of Daniel Andrews and John Pesutto, linking our peaceful protest to those despicable gatecrashers, has had a devastating impact on my life. Powerful politicians are afraid to let women speak because facts are kryptonite to exploitative ideological positions that are based on a lie. The truth is that trans women are men, and many of the men the law now demands that we admit to all female-only spaces are not transsexual men with acute body dysphoria and internalised homophobia who just want to fit in. They are opportunists. They take defiant selfies in women's toilets to send a message to women that safeguarding and our boundaries, safety and dignity have no meaning. Now the only way to avoid these men is for women to self-exclude from public life, which is exactly what our feminist forebears fought against. And we are here again fighting the same sex-based repression our mothers and grandmothers faced. But this time, the men with the boots on our necks are wearing fake breasts, garish makeup and a tiny lycra dress. This time, they demand we refer to them as women and insist they are exactly the same as us, but also more marginalised than any other person on the planet. And this is championed and enforced through silencing and shame by all sides of politics, but mostly by the left, my left. The fake left, who no longer represent poor or working class women who depend on public services. They represent the elite that will never have to use the crisis services they invited predatory men into with their sex self-ID laws. The fake left, who puts male sex offenders in female prisons, where Aboriginal women are unjustly overrepresented, while virtue signalling about the Aboriginal voice to Parliament. Despite 3 decades of advocating for genuinely marginalised women, I am now considered a heretic from the left. My former allies have placed a target on my back. But I'll continue to call out toxic gender ideology and the ideologically corrupted politicians enforcing it, no matter what they do to me. Thank you.
Angie Jones contacted Tom Teneke, a local so-called anti-fascist organiser, seeking help in keeping any Nazis away from the Let Women Speak event. Tom reported in his own video that when he received this message, his reaction was influenced by the fact that he had recently spent a lot of time working to keep Nazi groups away from various sex clown story hour events across rural Victoria.
I got a bunch of young queer people together at a private event in Melbourne. I won't go into further details.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year!
But regardless of the value of his project, Tom was working hard, and what's more, Tom blamed the Nazi actions against the sex clown story hour events on Let Women Speak, because apparently without Let Women Speak, the Nazis would have been totally cool with it. Therefore, according to Tom, if Let Women Speak was now to have their event ruined by Nazis, then they would basically be getting what they deserved.
Because after all that effort, Angela Jones, I am the one who needs help. I need help, Angela.
What's fascinating about this reasoning is that it pivots seamlessly, if self-pityingly, from fighting Nazis to instead working out how to most effectively employ Nazis so as to socially punish your political rivals. This type of strategy seems to be one of the few plays that the modern left still has left, in that one of the features that I guess defines the modern left is hatred of Donald Trump. But it's an undeniable fact that through WikiLeaks, it was learned that Hillary Clinton's campaign had a Pied Piper strategy. So they were basically going to pay someone to lead the Republicans off a cliff. And the way that they did this was they picked the 3 craziest Republican candidates and they said to their allies in the media, keep giving them media coverage regardless of what happens. Media coverage that you were going to give to Hillary, give to these people because we want them to win the primaries. And so that's how Trump went from a joke candidate to a candidate that almost couldn't lose because he had the backing of Hillary Clinton. Remember when he first became a thing and everyone kept saying, why is he in the media? Why does he, he seemingly can't, we just can't stop talking about him. That was because Hillary Clinton made people do that. And so, in a sense, it's like Hillary had this devious plan where she got this vicious dog, Trump, and a gun. And she thought, I'm going to release this vicious dog on the people, and as it runs up to them, I'm going to shoot it, and then I'll be the hero because I killed the vicious dog. Except she let Trump go, and then the gun jammed, and the dog has been on the loose ever since, and now the Democrats sell themselves as anti-vicious dog when they're the whole reason it's on the loose in the first place. And it's particularly ironic given that the left currently supports Ukraine and the Nazis so so unwaveringly support Ukraine, so the idea that you can't support an idea that a Nazi might support only seems to apply to their enemies and never to themselves. Nonetheless, the strategy of smearing your opponent as a Nazi and winning by default, employed by shit or leftists to the degree that you think there's a difference. All across the world, Tom and Sean and Wacker are just our sad local example of it. So, although no help was coming, Tom said that he had mockingly told fellow activists that Let Women Speak was seeking help in repelling Nazis.
Here's the third thing I said on the 3rd of January in my little comrade chat about Angela Jones's message to me.
In order to understand how Tom sharing this information may have been important, we need to cover some of the players in the Melbourne activist left, their relationship to each other, and to the Melbourne Let Women Speak demo specifically. So, Tom Tenneke, the aforementioned Antifa, is mates with Sean Bedlam. They co-founded the protest branding and tactic known as YARD, or Yelling at Racist Dogs. Sean was at the Let Women Speak Melbourne demo, but Tom does not appear to have been. Also present at the demonstration were at least 7 infiltrators from an organisation called Wacker. Wacker caused 2 separate disruptions, one which resulted in an Let Women Speak demonstrator needing an ambulance. Samantha Castro is the founder of Wacker. Sean Bedlam and Sam Castro created a podcast together. So these people work together politically, and as prominent gender spiritualists, they all had an interest in seeking to help the Nazis to get as close to the Let Women Speak demonstration as possible. Otherwise, without the guilt by association and slander, they would have to actually address the arguments, which they would most obviously lose, which is why one of their slogans is "No debate." Which also kind of sounds fascist, don't you think? Even if Wacker didn't know about the Nazis going into the event, 2 of their infiltrators can be seen, along with the Let Women Speak marshals, watching the Nazis arrive at the very beginning, long before the Let Women Speak demonstration began. Yet, despite having actual fascists on hand, they chose to focus their entire group's infiltration abilities on undermining another group's capacity to keep Nazis away from their event. This was all somehow done under the banner of anti-fascism. It's worth noting that during the event, the police were only ever able to truly block the movement of the Nazis through the use of horses. Obviously, the Let Women Speak marshals, who comprised of less than a dozen mainly older civilian women, were going to be of little use in blocking the movement of a gang of violent men. One of Tom's more astute observations was that the Nazis' recruiting strategy requires the involvement of police in order to function. This is due to the fact that if the police didn't show up to their demonstrations, thus preventing a physical conflict with members of the public, the Nazis would inevitably be drawn into fights, and regardless of how they fared in these conflicts, this would result in them ending up in legal trouble. This was how Tom Sewell, the leader of the Nazis in question, had previously been taken out of political activity.
Tom Sewell sabotaged it by being violent. He physically assaulted some people and he sank his own group's efforts in legal strife due to his inability to control his own temper.
However, a similar criticism, that is, the group is dependent on the police in order to function, could be made of the so-called anti-fascist demonstrators. They outnumbered the Nazis more than 10-1 on the day, yet it is clear in the footage that they do not actually want to come into contact with them. So instead of a war, you've actually got 2 rival cosplay factions who are both forcing the police to facilitate their parallel play, like some kind of absurd child-minding service, with one group for autistic kids and another for cluster B personality disorders. The second time it became evident that the alleged anti-fascists actually wanted to avoid coming into contact with the Nazis, as much as the Nazis wanted to avoid coming into contact with them, was when the Nazis were leaving Parliament House, and only some of the demonstrators made a half-hearted attempt to follow them. They essentially let literal Nazis walk the streets of Melbourne and instead focused on intimidating a group of mainly middle-aged women who had nothing to do with them. WACA had at least 7 infiltrators behind police lines with paint, and they directed none of these resources towards the actual organised fascists. The first hint that the gender spiritualists know what they are saying is based on a lie is the surprisingly casual and particularly personalised way they speak about these events. The majority of the time, their message in regard to the Melbourne Let Women Speak action is something akin to, "Oh my, did you hear what happened to the TERFs? They're Nazis. It's so embarrassing. Don't talk to them."
What's to be done with this Homer Simpson?
They act as though this development would only affect the people that they're trying to slander. But if I was an anti-fascist organizer and I genuinely believed that more than 100 women, many of them from the left,
Most of us here are from the left, and we are angry.
had recently met at Parliament House to enjoy watching a violent gang saluting Hitler, not only would I be much more alarmed, but I would realise that this would signal a dramatic shift in Australian politics. After all, openly supporting the Third Reich would put this demonstration to the right of One Nation, Reclaim Australia. They'd even be to the right of the Cronulla riots. Taking the gender spiritualists at their word, this would suggest that Adolf Hitler's popularity must be at an all-time high, but they're acting like it's business as usual because they know it's not real. Another bit of context which is important for people who aren't familiar with Melbourne is how big the space outside of Parliament House is. It's a huge space, and during the Let Women Speak demonstration, there was a massive amount of noise coming from multiple directions.
The counter rally has been drowning out their rally for hours. They're not having a good time. They've been made to work extremely fucking hard.
There was an anti-lockdown protest happening next to the Let Women Speak protest, and many of those people brought their own sound equipment and drums and used them for their own purposes while the Let Women Speak demonstration was happening. And given how hard it was to hear the speakers because of the enormous amount of counter-protesters, no one who was actually supporting the Let Women Speak demonstration would have been doing that. But regardless, this gave the area an atmosphere like a music festival, in that something could be happening quite close to you without you necessarily being aware of it, because in such a chaotic environment, you have to be blocking out something in order to focus on anything. This isn't to say that the Let Women Speak organisers were unaware of the presence of the group that would later be confirmed to be Nazis. As we'll see, one of the live streams essentially begins with the Nazis, who at this point, half an hour before the Let Women Speak demonstration begins, are simply a group of men in black. They haven't unfurled their banner, they haven't done anything at this point, and they're being stopped by police on horseback. And this standoff is being watched from a distance by Let Women Speak marshals, who are kind of standing on the edge of the Let Women Speak demonstration closest to what's happening. And this interaction seems to indicate that the police were using force to keep the Nazis separated from the Let Women Speak demonstration. And that's essentially what the police did up until the point that the counter-protesters put such a demand on police resources that the choice was between letting the counter-protesters break through, in which case a violent conflict would almost immediately break out, such as what happened in Auckland, or using the police that were keeping the Nazis contained to reinforce the police lines and potentially have the Nazis do something that you don't want them to do. Some gender spiritualists have tried to concern troll. They'll be like, oh, so why didn't you just ask the police to make the Nazis leave? And the answer to this is that receiving a permit to protest doesn't give a group control of the police for a day, and it also doesn't give one the ability to decide who else is allowed to have freedom of assembly. To put the limitations of the organisers' powers in context, the anti-lockdown freedom movement had been holding demonstrations at Parliament House on a Saturday every week for 3 years prior. This Saturday was no exception. Therefore, Let Women Speak did not even have the power to say, we want the steps to ourselves, let alone the power to sweep away groups they didn't like by using the police like their own personal army. What's even more interesting about this is that Tom, Sean and Wacker are strong opponents of the anti-lockdown protesters. So if the anti-lockdown protesters had been gathering every Saturday for 3 years at Parliament House, I'd be inclined to think that Tom and Sean and Wacker would have known that and realised that correlation is not causation, especially when you're talking about a regular local event that had been occurring for years, coinciding with one stop of a one-off part of an international tour. The understanding established by the police was that there would be 2 demonstrations occurring side by side on the steps of Parliament. Not only did Sean, Tom or Wacker not inform their audience of this, Sean in particular goes out of his way to demonstrate his disregard for this obvious distinction.
Over here, cooker, fucking anti-vax, transphobe, whatever.
So what we have is a situation where the faux lefty gender spiritualists and the Nazis are both united in their desire to present the Nazis as the real leaders of a movement, Let Women Speak, which they clearly had no involvement in. In this case, having the police officially recognize 2 actions side by side was a gift to both the Nazis and the anti-fascists, who also wanted the Nazis to be able to get as close to LWS as possible. As the evidence will show, when Sewell says he was here to protect a rally of conservative Australians, the Freedom Movement rally started during the Let Women Speak rally. It also started as the Nazis arrived at the edge of the anti-lockdown protest and ended during the Let Women Speak rally, and like 95% of the anti-vaxxers and all their equipment left during the Let Women Speak rally. Even the Nazis left after deliberately riling up the counter-protesters before the Let Women Speak rally ended. So they obviously weren't there to protect it. On the other hand, the Freedom Movement action ended and disbanded before the Nazis left. This is consistent with Sewell protecting the Freedom Movement demonstration, not Let Women Speak. In fact, Tom Sewell immediately identifies his group as part of the group that has been protesting at Parliament House every week for the last 3 years. So he openly says, that is the protest that we're participating in.
We are here to protect the women. We've been protesting every week for the last 3 years.
He makes no reference to Let Women Speak, to Kelly J. Keane. Instead, he grabs a microphone and starts immediately speaking over the top of her the second she starts speaking.
It is not good enough for the school to take.
Then he riles up a crowd and leaves, so that all the Let Women Speak demonstrators are now in more danger than they would have otherwise been. And that's somehow being a vanguard. The reason why I mention an argument at the beginning of the video is because it was during this debate that I first realized that one of the things that the Let Women Speak detractors have no explanation for is a motive. Why would Let Women Speak want Hitler-saluting Nazis to attend their rally and or be positioned as close to it as possible? They think they have a motive, that is, LWS are Nazis, but this doesn't make sense. I didn't realize how little sense it made until the gender spiritualist I was debating made a comparison between Let Women Speak and the March for Babies movement. MFB is an anti-choice political movement that's been active for about 10 years. And it's a single-issue movement, which means it attracts people from various sections of the right in a similar way to how an environmental group might attract various sections of the left, wherein you would have radicals, anarchists and socialists on the left, for example, rubbing shoulders with other people, mainstream politicians and progressives, who may share no other beliefs with them other than what they're currently organising around. When a single issue group is created by a pre-existing political group, then these organisations are often called front groups. They allow for more radical political organisations to put up an acceptable front while omitting the less popular parts of their platform. So, to clarify, the claim against Let Women Speak is essentially that Posey Parker is a Nazi, and that Let Women Speak is a front organisation that focuses exclusively on women's rights, or what I like to call populist gender secularism, while allegedly concealing beliefs about genocide and ethno-states and the like. But even though this appears to provide an explanation for Let Women Speak wanting Hitler-saluting Nazis to attend their rally, it actually provides the exact opposite, because what good is a front organisation if you're just going to fly a swastika in public anyway? At the March for Babies, there were plenty of Nazis, but no balaclavas, no swastikas, no Nazi salutes, because this was a genuine example of Nazis actually participating in a movement. On the other hand, anyone, especially a Nazi, would know that having a violent gang of Nazis saluting Hitler near a Let Women Speak action would only damage the Let Women Speak action.
If you care so much about those causes, aren't you actually hurting? Example is yesterday just Moira Deeming, who was an ally for that issue. She ended up getting sacked, kicked out of the Liberal Party. So an ally who was in a position that was able to do something. Not your ally, an ally to the issue, not your ally. You don't have many allies.
What we did was we forced that conversation on the table, and we forced the Liberal Party to denounce its own people.
But you turned the public against an issue that was in the mainstream already.
It's the controversial figure who was speaking in Adelaide as part of a national tour. The British activist, also known as Kelly J. Keane.
It was in the mainstream already. You guys hijacked and gate crashed their event.
I disagree.
They have a rivalry with moderate conservatives like Moira Deeming, in a similar way to how Wacker hates the ALP, despite them both ostensibly being part of the left. Tom Sewell knew that it would be a disaster for Moira Deeming and the Liberal Party if his gang turned up.
And we forced the Liberal Party to denounce its own people.
This meant that the Nazis could go all out with their offensiveness, because the more abhorrent their behaviour, the more effective it would be in tainting their opponent. And the more effective it would be as a recruiting tool for the anti-fascists, because they could now use this incident to inflate their importance. Wacker also appears to have wanted this to happen for the same reason. This meant that the Nazis could shit on rival conservatives while gaining tons of free publicity.
To them, they fucking won. And with the help of Victoria Police,
the media, the government, the left, and me, Sean Bedlam,
I guess they fucking did win.
The biggest victory for both the left and the Nazis being that they erased all the left-wing women who participate in Let Women Speak.
I was a member of the Greens for over 10 years. Most of us here are from the left, and we are angry.
So, in a sense, Angie Jones is like an individual symbol of that process, in that if they can take a person who was just friends with them, basically, friends with them enough that Tom was upset that Angie didn't introduce herself more politely, because that's what I'm thinking about when I'm getting info about Nazis. So she was just friends with them. She's been a lefty her whole life, you know? So if they can take her and say she's a Nazi, especially when they know she's currently in court, this has been reported in the media, she's currently in court with a right-wing troll who has doxed her and targeted relatives of hers who have disabilities. So it's, in that sense, it's similar to the LWS action in that not only do they know it's not true, they know you're actually actively fighting to make it not true, in that, LWS was trying to repel the Nazis, so it was especially funny to slander them as Nazis. And likewise, Angie's life has already been fucked up by being involved in anti-fascist organizing, and so it would be especially funny to cut her off from that support base.
I need help, Angela.
So, let's take a look at how things physically unfolded on the day. As I said in the intro, there are 3 streams. One is from an account called Stone the Crone. It's the one that you can see here. Then there's Rukshan's stream, and then there's the official Let Women Speak stream. Just to explain this map a little bit, these dots that are blue dots along here are to signify the kind of smattering of police that were put along the steps. Also, you can probably only just see it, but there's like a red Australian flag over these steps here, because this is where the anti-vax, anti-lockdown cookers, etc. people were given to protest. In the beginning, I've got a sort of fog of war, so you can only see what's around the Let Women Speak demonstration. But as the camera pans around, you'll start to see more of the things spread out on the map.
And I am here in Melbourne with the absolute craziness that is going on. So there's already been an arrest. And I have the footage of the guy being taken off. We have already got, across the road here, we have already got the TRAs making a lot of noise. They were on this side of the street earlier, and they have been pushed over. But like I said, there's already been arrest.
So just quickly, you can see this building here is brown, so you can recognize it on the map as brown. And then this building here is blue, so you can recognize it as blue. That's the north, that's the north side, that's the south side.
So there's the ponies, pretty ponies over there.
That's the horses.
Police there. Let's just pan around. We have all the police here. And they literally did nothing. They did nothing at all until people were actually harmed.
I believe this is one of the whacker infiltrators who dressed up like a LWS marshal in order to infiltrate. So you'll see them around a fair bit.
Harmed and attacked and had things in their face. They did not act at all until that moment, which was really, really disappointing. They are across the road now, which is good. We are early. We are like literally still about half an hour before Kelly J. King gets here. But it's very exciting. So we're going to go around and hey, female, how you going? So we're going to be going around.
She goes around and talks to people that are on the steps. So you can see a small crowd of people has gathered. I still haven't been able to do an exact number count. It's somewhere between 1 and 200, I think. So those are the cops at the steps. So they keep going. She talks to a bunch of people. That's them. Yeah, you can see them there being separated from the Let Women Speak demonstration, but they just keep wandering through the police lines the whole demo, and those are the proper marshals there watching them. You can tell their outfits are slightly different, and they both have long black pants and black hats on that sort of separates them from the rest of the marshals. So yeah, that's the beginning. That's Stasia. More people talking. Okay, now we start to get up to when the Nazis arrive. So the Nazis arrive up here, and what I'm going to do is switch between the audio on both these cameras, because you watch what's happening on this camera and it's all very dramatic, and there's horses, and they're stopped from moving. But basically everyone in this camera can't even really hear the things that are happening on here.
I go with it, but nobody actually watches it. And I'm like, whoa, there's like 200 people on there that don't watch my channel. So I'm like, yeah, you know, why would they? But again,
why wouldn't you?
I kind of freak out though. It's all good. I'm starting to get used to it. Yeah, starting to get used to it.
Don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, they're completely unaware of it. Meanwhile, you flick it back to the local audio. So I'm pretty sure, like, you can see they haven't unfurled their banner. As far as I know, they haven't done any kind of salutes or anything like that. So they're not, at this point, recognizable as any group in particular. They're just a bunch of men in black balaclavas.
Guys, you're going to have to move back. You're in my way.
Right now. Are we down with
Hey guys, Rukshan here, coming to you live from Melbourne. Good, how are you doing? I'm at the Let Women...
Right, so you can see here, those are the Let Women Speak marshals. That's also a Let Women Speak marshal, but I'm pretty sure there's the two fake marshals are standing in the middle of the road.
The Let Women Speak event covering this. And you've got
you can hear the blah blah democracy. That's one of the anti-vaxxers on a megaphone, and they regularly use their own sound equipment throughout the day, even while the Let Women Speak demonstration is struggling to be heard. There they are. That's them. So that's the horse.
a few issues there with Antifa trying to crash the event.
That's them too now heading back across.
There you go, COVID.
So this is when the Nazis had been stopped. There's no footage. I don't have footage of this specifically happening, but the Nazis were stopped there, and then as a result, they spread out across, or in reaction to that, they spread out across the road. There's two lines of police and a line of horses stopping them from getting any closer to these demonstrators. And this is the script from the audio that occurs, the subtitles, I guess. So it's evident that he's speaking about the anti-vax protest, not Let Women Speak.
We are here to protect the children. We've had enough of the government sexualising children. We are here to protect the women. We've been protesting every week for the last 3 years. Today's focus is protecting children. We're against the indoctrination.
He said today's purpose is protecting children, and you'll notice that the banner that's in front of that is displayed when their action actually begins says protect the children across it. That's the anti-vax banner.
Children by our government.
So this is when they first unfurl their banner. Infiltrators are there. So this is counter-protesters basically having a stoush with the anti-vax protesters. Why aren't you here every week with us? The infiltrators again, and you can also... She's not an infiltrator, she's a marshal. You can also hear the people on the megaphone.
Andrews. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to get rid of Dan Andrews. That's why he's hiding all the time. We're going to stand for freedom. We're going to get this tyrant out of this state.
You also see completely different signage. The anti-vaxxers have all the red Australian flags and the Eureka flags. There's nothing like that around the Let Women Speak thing. It's all suffragette flags and a few rainbow flags. So you can hear that drum just echoing out. The crowd has now built up a bit. So Rukshan, you can tell, is standing basically here, and you can clear as day hear the anti-vax protesters quite far away.
Rise up!
So that happens for a little bit. There's an arrest over here. I'm not sure what it was related to. This guy has a go at Rukshan, who's filming this live stream. They're really hard on Rukshan and constantly accuse him of not wanting to show the Nazis, even though it's his coverage of this event that actually allowed us to be able to tell what was going on. And he shows the Nazis numerous times and even repeats what Sean Bedlam wants him to repeat into the camera so people can actually hear it. Anyway, so there's a little bit of a scuffle there. Infiltrators come back over now.
So as you can see, a bit of tension here, guys. A few arrests already. So pretty much we got people who are speaking for women's rights here. No men in women's sports. Let women speak. It's a... And then on the other side, you've got activists. You've got members of Antifa. Speaking on behalf of the trans community here in Melbourne, Victoria. There's a few arrests already. So pretty much we got people who are speaking for women's rights here. Tell me, bro, tell me. Where are they?
So you can see some person, to tell you the truth, they actually are Nazis, because obviously Sean Bedlam would be prone to hyperbole when it comes to what is and isn't a Nazi.
They'll join Nazis.
So on this side, guys, we've got what the activists are telling me are Nazis or members of the far right.
So yeah, you can police line, horses, police line, Nazis. Police line, horses, police line, Nazis.
And they're holding a sign that says destroy pedo freaks.
So this is interesting because at this point, this line moves forward. I think because they're concerned about this demonstration getting too big, but also you'll notice this woman approaches a police officer. She's one of the marshals. Now, it's clear that this line of police is actually taking guidance from this officer, who is in turn taking guidance from the police officer on the horse. See? That person points, that person's pointing in the same direction, they're watching him, he waves his hands, everyone moves, yet somehow she is supposed to have been responsible for this police line moving, but it doesn't even matter even if she was, because there's still a line of horses and a line of police preventing the Nazis from coming closer. This is not the point at which the Nazis were allowed into the event. So they come down this way. You can hear how noisy it is. Yeah, the sound's coming from both sides. So you see Rukshan circles around, and you can see the line of police and horses still holding the Nazis in place. It's just this line has moved forward now. So now you've got the Nazis on the megaphone, them on their megaphone, these people on their megaphones.
Okay.
One thing I wanted to point out about this formation the police have here is that they are forming a line which is separating the Let Women Speak demonstration from the cooker protests, like right next door. You know, they didn't form a line to the north of the cooker protest and count them all as the same one demonstration. They're trying to separate them. So yeah, you can still see the line. The horses are about to come up to another change soon.
There's a culture in this society. The whole system needs to be changed. We've been betrayed at the federal level.
So, yeah, now you can see there's a police line of these dark blue officers. I don't know what their significance is. They come down to the police line, they sort of form a line from here to here. I think maybe because this is then able to respond to these groups if they need to. Not really sure what the logic behind it was.
Every institution has betrayed the people.
So that keeps going for a bit. You can see the Let Women Speak marshals all holding hands in front of the demo. They're all chanting. The Let Women Speak march is basically just largely ignoring the different groups that are around them, waiting for the event that they hoped to attend to start. That's one of the things that's kind of a bit different about this demonstration. Like, one of the criticisms people will sort of raise is, or they'll raise criticisms in a way where it's as though Let Women Speak could have just cancelled the event and had it the next weekend, not that it was sort of dependent on an international tour. So yeah, women with the suffragette flags, you know, how all far-right people do. Cops along the top of the steps.
Just lady's just telling us why she's there.
So now we have an interesting development.
Whatever happens to the potato, do no harm. The government is not working in your interest. The institutions are not working in your interest. Do not comply. Do not tolerate what you know to be wrong. I challenge everybody to justify that to me. Why is it acceptable for a teenage girl to have surgery to change her gender? This is the year 2023. We are a broken society. Local government fails you. We have drag queen story out. Local councils think it's acceptable for drag queens to tell stories to preschoolers. Why is that acceptable? We all know it's not.
We want all the Antifa to join us. We want all the people promoting their gender to join us. We're for freedom. We're for freedom, whatever gender you are. We're what you join us. From all different sections of our group. There's people from all different areas. In our group, our freedom fighters, we want every single freedom, every single people who are protesting the gender rights to join us.
Move away, please. Please don't push me.
This is a peaceful protest.
More counter-protesters arrive from the north. They're being accompanied by a line of police, but they're very thin, and they're sort of struggling to keep up with this large demonstration as it moves. The Nazis have now turned around.
So a few Nazi salutes here. We got Antifa here.
Now you can see if they were really wanting to push through this line and get to them, they could easily do it, but they're sort of half-heartedly standing off, and the police are doing their best to use their social power more than their physical power to compel the protesters to stay back. See, they're not even pushing, they're just standing there. And they're right there. So what's funny is the line of police that was further back, it moves up, and when they move up, they pass deliberately through the Nazis and knock their banner as they pass through. At least that's what I thought happened. Yeah, it does. So, the idea that every cop loves the Nazis is obviously ridiculous. So now we have a new phase. Police line horses, police line Nazis on the back of them, facing north.
Unite to fight the right!
LWS demonstration still quite a distance away from this, and that looked like it was quite far away. I'll switch over the audio.
This is pretty sick, isn't it? Pretty exciting.
See?
Exciting.
Yes.
It shouldn't be as stressful as it is talking about biology.
Bam, we're done.
Yeah, we shouldn't have to. We didn't fight to have our own bathrooms and for girls to be able to play sport, to have it all taken away.
Alright, so there you go. Let's just scrub through here. They stay there. Rukshan gets caught on the other side of the line and has to walk around to get back to where things are happening. Yeah, you can see the marshals there. You can see people sort of watching, standing out and watching again as they were before. You can also see the Let Women Speak demonstration starting to spill out onto the road a little bit. Look at that handsome devil. That's me. This is probably the only good chant they have. Your leader, shoot yourself like Adolf Hitler, follow your leader. Alright, so they're doing that for a bit. Jump, jump, jump. You can see this demonstration keeps stretching out further and further into the middle of Burke Street. And yeah, the Let Women Speak demo is coming further and further out. So yeah, you can see how far away all the stuff that's happening down here is from.
Like this guy's out here alone, he don't.
Nazis on your side! You've got Nazis on your side!
So yeah, if at any point LWS was actually affiliated with the Nazis, they could have easily approached the police and said, no, actually, they're part of our demonstration, let them in. Yet, they're being blocked by horses instead.
Hey man, can I go to that side? Sorry man, if I go...
So this is where he had to go around the back of the demo. So he's walking around the back of this demonstration to get to the other side.
Two sides, the far right, the far left, and then you have activists in the middle who are either advocating for trans rights or speaking up for women's rights. So
this is sort of what the line looks like now. There's a small group of the darker police officers and...
Yeah, so what you just saw before, what I was filming was...
You can see them. You can see there's still police lines back there.
So what you saw was really two elements there, the far left and the far right, facing each other off.
Yeah.
Here in Melbourne on the streets. And
so at this point, after being apparently asked to let the police in, let the Nazis in, the police now are still containing them.
And you saw it got very heated there, but the police have really cordoned that area off. And here is actual talkers were meant to actually be here, but it's very loud. I don't know when the speeches are starting, but So it's probably a great example of how there are extremes.
Okay, so this is important because this is when Kelly J. Keane first arrived. So it's impossible, well, it's not impossible, but we don't know exactly where she is, but she's basically somewhere at the back of Parliament House, and then she gets led in from this side of the demonstration.
So we're going to see this lovely video in a minute. Ready? Looks a bit frozen. Has the live stream started yet? This is the live stream. Someone just commented on my live stream. Has the live stream started yet? What was this? Oh, okay.
So I'm just going to switch back to the Rookshire. So yeah, you see the people at the Let Women Speak rally are obviously oblivious to the fact that Kelly J. Keane is about to turn up. Or unaware, I guess they have some suspicion. Switch back again.
Natalie Hutchins, the Minister for Women. You got my invite, I know, so I hope to see you here today so you can come and listen to women with me.
Of course she'll be here, because it's a women's rights issue.
2-1 job.
Yeah.
Oh.
The speeches and whatnot, so yeah, no, it's great. The LGB without the teachers! That's right. So
another
hello, how you doing?
With
I'm doing good.
You want to do a live? I'll pay a few tricks.
Pay for the sacrifices they make for women's rights. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna walk through in a minute, guys. So, not the hair, exactly. Not the hair. That's what I said. Not the hair. Like. Yeah, I was hoping for more sunshine so it sparkles more, because otherwise, what's the point of rhinestones?
it will come. It will come. It's going to be brutally hot today.
Is it?
Yep.
Well, I will be sweating. See, sweating and bad hair, probably fluffy hair.
So let's move this along a bit.
Isn't it nuts?
Right, now she's starting to come out. You can see that's the brown, that's this building we talked about. And I didn't include this on the maps, but there's a giant truck here. It's like riot vehicle of some description that they could have used to partially block Burke Street off. Probably would have damaged the truck, probably would have made the counter-protesters look worse, but it would have definitely meant that they had more police available to do things like contain the Nazis.
Isn't it nuts?
So many
women don't have penises.
So you can see the people at the demonstration aren't waiting for her to appear. This is a surprise to them. That's actually one of the whacker infiltrators looking in the direction. I think she must be aware. So there she is. There Posey is. Kelly J. Keane.
Hi.
This is the sort of setup. So yeah, I've got the little yellow Kelly J. Keane symbol there. The symbols for the Let Women Speak thing kind of change and are a bit confusing, but I'll talk you through them.
This is, wow, look at that! Everyone's Look at these amazing Australians! They've come to speak. This is amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Well done. Okay. So, I'm going to set up. Off the step. We need to be off the step.
Start setting up.
Okay.
This
So, right, I now need to set up. So we're standing about here. Is that all right? So the speakers are there. Where are we standing?
Yeah, here.
To speak?
People just line up and they'll speak. Yes, what do you do?
Where are we sitting? Right, who's organising? You, as well as you. Is Angie?
Like I say, stand here so everyone can see you. This will be the place for the speakers. So what
Oh, hello! Hello, nice to see you. Hi. Oh, so nice to see you. Sheila Jeffries, everyone. Sheila Jeffries. There we go.
Renowned
that's
far-right
because-
figure,
right,
Sheila
okay. Oh,
Jeffries.
that's such great. That's great. And I just saw Holly. Okay, I need to know where the microphone is, and we need to do that. Do we know where Angie is? 'Cause
So yeah, you can see the police are now sort of spread out across that road, not exactly like it's portrayed in this image. I might need to fix that. Oh yeah, here they
really
come.
need the microphone. Can I ask you to hold this for me while I just set up the thing? So you hold it that way because it's on. Okay. All right. Officer.
Just stand in front of that big thing they've got to set up for you.
Okay. Does that mean not on the
No, they want us in front of that. I think it would be better if that was up here, but never mind. That's where they've done it.
So you can hear Moira and Kelly J. Keane talking about where the police have told them to stand, which I think is essentially in front of the big black banner that they've got set up at the base of the steps, which also puts them more like on the same level as the counter protesters. So the sound works better to disrupt the action. But it's just another indication of how little control they had over the event.
What can I do to help you?
I need these put up.
Yep.
Okay, wonderful.
So yeah, you can see the Let Women Speak crowd has grown quite a bit.
So, are you intending to stay after you do the speech?
Yeah.
After the speech.
No. Everybody speaks and then I leave. I don't speak and leave. Yeah.
Sorry, is that what you were asking? Yeah. So when it's all wrapped up?
Yeah, we've told women to leave safely in sort of groups of 5. Make sure they're not wearing anything to make them targets.
Ready?
Can you come? Thanks so much. Hi. Right, I'm just going to do this. Set this up. Yeah, can you, if you put those on the floor, yeah, can you open this one? You open them all? I might just go there just to say hello, boys.
Right here. Adult, female human being.
That's when do you okay, so if I say this is what's happening.
Right, so now you can see that the line has turned into a complete line, whereas, yeah, you can see it's a complete line across
we're big.
across Burke Street. And that seems to be...
So then look at these lovely Australians.
This line...
Haven't they done well? Sheila Jeffries up on the step up there. And then all the nutters at the back. Okay. I will try to remember to keep turning this round so you guys can...
I think that was a good shot of it. Yeah, now it looks like you can basically see all the way through and there's no police line till you get to the very end.
Guys can... I thought it better to set up so you can see.
So you can hear all the drums.
All right, guys. keep on going. We're a democracy. We're Canadian. We're Brazil.
I already have. I've live streamed it.
All the cookers are trying to speak over the Let Women Speak rally. The counter-protesters are still begging Rukshan to report about the Nazis that he reported about the instant they told him. Yeah, now you can see the clear line. They're now facing they're now facing south, but there's nothing between them and the Let Women Speak demonstration. All those police were used to try and hold Burke Street. So now they're heading south.
All right, guys.
You can hear the cooker say, "All right, guys," and I think he calls them freedom fighters as they arrive.
Oh, we got some freedom fighters, yeah! Got some freedom fighters, yeah!
Got some freedom fighters, yeah. So yeah, those two groups are both carrying Australian flags. There's no one carrying an Australian flag in the Let Women Speak rally. Except for one or two stray cookers who get left behind at the end. This is the Protect the Children banner that eventually gets raised.
So these are the guys that were doing the Hail Hitlers and facing off against the activists from the other side and members of Antifa.
Rukshan reporting. So you see, there's like two Rukshan reporting on the Nazis again, despite never getting any credit for it. You hear, literally a second apart, Kelly J says hi, and then you can hear Tom Sewell on the megaphone.
Alright guys.
See? Hi. Alright guys.
For those who are here for the Protect the Children, we're going to start moving.
For those who are here for the Protect the Children, we're going to start moving.
So let's go to the actual...
So those two demonstrations began at the same time.
Actual event.
Two things. One, we're going to do the respectful welcome to country.
The Let Women Speak event is beginning with a welcome to country. You know, how neo-Nazis do.
But I'm just going to stand up on those steps and I'm going to wave at all the boys that have come today. We're going to say hello, boys, to those lovely men and...
So the thing is I don't know if, like, Kelly J. Keane said, "Where's Angie?" when she first showed up. It wasn't as though she'd been in constant contact with the marshals. So she, at this point, may be unaware, because you can see she's not the tallest person, and you can't actually, if you approached from the south, and then went down the steps and in here, she can't actually see the things that are over here happening not very far from her.
Cheer transers, as I like to call them, who've come along with. So I'm just going to stand up on the steps, and I think it might make them annoyed, but it's all good fun. So just one moment.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for covering it.
All good. I came to cover this. I'm from myself, independent.
So she goes up to make fun of the counter-protesters. There's the one of the infiltrators.
So they're waving to the activists on the other side.
Alright, how we start in the UK as we do this. I'm going to finish and then you say the word tough. And you say it with pride, and you forget that it's used against us, because actually it simply means that you don't think any woman can have a penis.
I'm pretty sure that's Rukshan's
Oh, what
camera.
a day this has been, what a rare mood I'm in, why it's almost like being a... You absolute beauties.
Hello, Victoria. We acknowledge the Aboriginal
Aboriginal peoples as the traditional owners of this land, and we pay our respects to elders past and present.
I'm just going to make this a bit lower so I can see my own face. Okay, so we are gathered here today before this brand new religion to refute it and refuse it. It's a quasi-religious, dogmatic cult. And what we're going to say is the words that you can no longer say as you watch your schools indoctrinate your children, as you watch your hospitals mutilate children, as you watch every lesbian space disappear before your very eyes, as you are told the lies that lesbian can have.
Fighters on that side. Pardon? Hold the line with the freedom fighters on that side.
So some of the Let Women Speak audio got mixed up somehow in the live stream, so you can hear them talking about trying to keep the freedom fighters separate from their demonstration.
Line with the freedom fighters on that side. Pardon? Hold the line with the freedom fighters on that side. We've got not enough marshals, we're still doing it all right. And I said to
So I'll just go back again. Now you've caught those little bits.
And transitioning children is the most profound abuse. So, I want to say why we are here, and then the media, whatever lies they might want to tell, can understand why we are here. We are here as women and men, from all sides of the political aisle and none, from all religions and none, to say that we will stand up for the truth and reality. And we don't need any political ideology to do that. We don't need to be on the far side of anything. But we will not lie, and we will not let you lie to our children. We know that what the media will do today is it will talk about two sides. Two sides. It will talk about two sides of this debate. Two aggressive sides battling against each other. What normal Australians will see is women trying to speak. And young men and young women who've been sold this lie, being desperate to try and stop us from speaking. We are your mothers, we are sometimes your grandmothers, your aunts, your educators, your sisters and your daughters. And we will be heard. So, in order to speak first, we don't have any preferential treatment, but if you don't have a vagina, a bit like the Titanic, you're right at the back of the queue. If at the end of this we've got room for men, then you will. If at the end of this we've got room for men to speak.
That's the mic that was probably picking up the audio.
Then I promise you I will let you. But if you don't, it is women who can't describe what we are. It is pregnant women who go to hospital to be described as birthing persons. It is women in cancer literature described as people with cervixes. You testicular owners, you still get to be called men. You prostate checkers, you still get to be called men. It's not your language that's being destroyed and erased, it's ours. So I will ask your forgiveness. Not really, I don't care. But I will say that unashamedly, unapologetically, I will put women first. And that is every woman.
So, just to explain this map, I'm putting this red square here to kind of show that once the Nazis showed up, that sort of made this whole space a lot more its own distinct area, I guess. The lightning strike and first is also to indicate that here are two of the infiltrators. You can see the other infiltrator watching on. I'm sure she filmed them or did something to help their project. So they did some stupid like street theater where they give birth to like a trans baby or some shit.
So, if I forget to take the microphone off, will you just do it? Because...
It's an act.
Some activists have come here.
So the marshals take them out.
Do you know what the shame of it is? It's two fucking women.
Oh, past all the drummers who are drumming while the Let Women Speak action is trying to be heard. And then that's a big sound system that the cookers push around and bring to protests.
All we want to do is let women speak! That's all we want! We know it's not true! You know it's not true! Absolutely disgusting! The only thing you've got is mattress!
So now that's everyone who was at the action was really trying to help make it work. So everybody's kind of tucked in tight, they're facing inwards, and they're trying to give the speakers as much kind of feedback as possible. And having a disruption has just kind of magnified that vibe of this demonstration is under threat, and we have to kind of, rather than being free to think about like what's going on in the surrounding area, the marshals are all lined up facing outwards, hoping this police line doesn't break, and then something like what happened in Auckland happens where men start punching.
Okay, right. I will not be governed by what they want. So, who would like to speak?
Not going to be divided anymore. We're going to stand for freedom.
Again, you can hear the cookers.
Hi. I work in public health, and I've noticed a shift in the language of female healthcare. This is occurring in both state and federal publications, and does not appear to be affecting men's health communications to the same degree. New South Wales and Queensland Health, as well as the federally funded National Cervical Screening Program, are now using the term people with a cervix in communications for the general public. When asked why, the response has been that it's a matter of inclusion for individuals who have a cervix, but who do not identify as women. This may be well intended, however, many will struggle to read and understand this content. This can actually worsen health inequality. Furthermore, many women find terms like...
So just gonna scan across until... What happens here? They're spread out across the area. There's the marshals. Right, yeah, so you've got the Nazi sound machine there, bunch of cookers, that's what these dots are supposed to be, and then the Nazis. And then they kind of hang around for a bit. Oh, and then Rukshan runs into Sean Bedlam again.
What's the story with the Nazis here? Any of them told me it's the Nazi guy.
So they're talking about the fact that the cookers are talking to the Nazis and pretending as though they don't realize that the cookers and the Let Women Speak demonstration are two separate demonstrations.
Tell me, man. Just
They're throwing Nazi salutes. They've been doing that for the last how long they've been here, 45 minutes. Now they move closer to this rally here.
How did they get the opportunity to move closer to this rally here, right? And also, it's two rallies here.
And are fraternising with this rally. Nazis and you guys are all one package.
Now, when he calls them you guys, Rukshan is sort of part of the, or seems to be more part of the anti-vaxxer movement, so he could say you guys, but they're not actually interacting with him.
okay. So the gentleman's saying, if you can't hear, gentlemen, no, I'm explaining it because I can't hear.
Sean Bedlam's giving him shit because he's so afraid Rukshan's not going to report what he's obviously been reporting.
The gentleman is saying that this group here are Nazis that are standing in this line here, and they have come really close to this group, and they're fraternizing with people here at this other rally for gender rights for women. So they're saying that this group and that group are connected.
Rukshan also makes merges this group into the LWS group, even though they're separate.
And they have Nazis in their ranks. That's what that gentleman was saying if you couldn't hear him.
Sometimes you can't choose your cousins, so some of them are related.
Yeah.
I explained it, man, what you said. Hey guys, how are you?
Good to see you.
What's interesting is you don't see those dark uniforms anymore. So that, like, was it because they were too expensive to keep?
They want to do something too.
So here's Sean Bedlam's videos that he recorded.
Catching all that shit over here. Cooker, fucking anti-vax, transphobe, whatever. Now they're at the front of the line of Nazis, fraternising with them, giving them the thumbs up, having a nice chat. And then over here, one of the Nazis with the fucking Nazi, great big, what's they called, a Sonnenrad on his shoulder. He's having a little meeting with these Byron Bay fucking transphobes.
The people he's pointing to are never paying attention to the Let Women Speak rally. They're always paying attention to either the Nazis or fellow anti-vaxxers.
What?
Like I said, red flags.
Strategy. Like, it's undeniable. There's 200 fucking cameras here recording all this shit and they don't care.
Yeah, weird, isn't it? Almost like what you think is happening isn't actually happening. And then again, whoever is with Sean makes a comment about fucking Rukshan, who has already reported on these Nazis.
All this shit and they don't care.
Rukshan's not.
Alright, yeah, Rukshan.
So you can see then the Nazis are now going up the steps to put their banner up on the steps.
Over. Yeah, let's see if he does it.
And you can see that must have been at the wrong time because obviously he's filming his own thing.
Yeah, let's see if he does it. Follow your leader! Go to Siberia! Follow your leader!
So yeah, you can see here this kind of square area I tried to point to before. There's the Protect the Children, Protect Our Children banner that's held up in front of the Nazis. So the argument that these two groups were collaborating is seems to be fair. This is when the second So the Nazis have just taken the steps, and it's during this point where the second infiltration begins. I'll put in footage later. Some people had gotten angry about the way this security guard reacts because he momentarily puts his hand on the woman's throat that he's trying to restrain. But you can see that he does it for like a split second while he's searching. Like, they'll show you a photo where the hand is there, but he's actually searching for a spot to put his hand. So he only grabs her like for a split second while he's searching for an appropriate place to be able to pull her away, and eventually does by putting his hand across her chest, which, you know, will be shown in the video.
You are the Minister for Women in Education.
And the reality is that if anybody wanted to prosecute the security guard, then the police would easily be able to find out who he is. Whereas even after the footage of this guy repeatedly punching a defenseless woman in the face was released, loads of gender spiritualists refused to share it, even though it would assist in an active investigation into an assault on a woman. But yeah, while this is happening, the Nazis are doing their thing. So Sean Bedlam is here going mental, going like, why hasn't Let Women Speak noticed that the Nazis are up on the steps? It's like, well, first of all, there's nothing they could physically do to prevent that. And second of all, a second fucking infiltrator has just disrupted the action, who actually knocks over a Let Women Speak demonstrator, causing her to need an ambulance and medical attention, which doesn't come for a very long time.
Alright guys, we're going to start moving down towards the station.
Alright guys, we're going to start leaving down towards the station. Obviously the Nazis are not here to protect the Let Women Speak demonstration because they're about to leave and leave Let Women Speak with all these counter-protesters.
Yes, the railway.
So they spend time wrestling with these clowns, trying to kick them out. They get dragged out. This is the woman who you can see here has collapsed. I think she was essentially knocked over in the scuffle.
No! Hi, you're here.
Hello.
Fantastic.
So we did have some actors. So now they're even more focused on themselves and not able to respond to anything the Nazis are doing.
From the other side, infiltrate. What happened?
She just fell down.
She fell down?
No, she fell down and hit her head.
Okay, she's fallen down and hit her head. She's from the other side, is she? The activist from the other side? Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna stop filming her, but they're just checking into some medical care. So you have another group that, typically comes here to protest against COVID mandates and lockdowns. They've gone for their march. So it's a separate group that was here.
So Rukshan acknowledges that there was a separate anti-vax group. They've left now, going down Spring Street.
Walked off for their march. So you can see there's lots of different groups here protesting about different things.
You can hear the marshals now. They all get called back to protect the Let Women Speak speakers.
Excuse me, mate.
Marshals! Marshals! Can you please come up the front, and we need to create a barrier around this area right now? Marshals, please come forward. all marshals come forward and create a barrier. Marshals, make sure you identify who are the marshals so that no one else can infiltrate here.
Who was that woman shouting, are you okay with this? Was she trans?
You know the people who were trying to protest?
Can I just... I've got this still. I'm just going to say, in 2023, it's absolutely revolting. It should frighten everybody that women talking about our rights and our spaces cannot do it safely.
So you can see Tom Sewell speaking on this megaphone at the same time as Kelly J. Keane. I'll turn the Rukshan feed on and just take it back a bit.
Is here a lot of the mainstream media photographers?
What that means is that it is not good enough for the politicians to allow this to happen. It is not good enough for the schools to teach.
So he is supposed to be helping her right now.
Economy and globalism to our children. The reason why we are
Fucking stupid.
here is because it's not good enough for Australians going on under a political solution. It is unbelievable that a revolution is coming. It is unbelievable that these communists that are involved in training have implemented every single institution of this country across the West.
Stupid young women have no idea what they give up.
For everyone, they cannot breathe.
How you doing?
And can I just say to you young women, you hate us, but you will become us.
We're not here to have a conversation with these people. We're not here to make a compromise with these communists. We're not here.
There's a lot of security here around the speaker.
So now Tom's going to speak over one of the first speakers at Let Women Speak, kind of almost perfectly rejecting the basis of the action.
Speakers. They've made a circle around them because
we are here to destroy the sick and rotted society that has left us all out to dry. Run it on up! Run it on up!
So everyone at the Let Women Speak rally currently is thinking our action could end at any point. And so they're gathered around the marshals who are protecting the speakers, trying to listen while getting shouted down by huge crowds and Nazis.
In education, where were you? You should have stood up for our sex-based rights. In 1902, the first female-only toilets were built.
Well, they're definitely putting on a show for the media, these guys. So all the media cameras are here, to be honest, focused around here, and you know, this is gonna make.
Again, you see the who Sean referred to as the Byron Bay hipsters, or the Byron Bay transphobes.
All the media cameras are here, to be honest,
watching the
focused
Nazis,
around here,
not
and
watching the Let Women Speak demonstration.
No, this is gonna make the news today for sure. Not the actual event where they're speaking about the women's issues, but I'm just trying to give a bit of coverage of everything now to show you what's happening here. On the other side, you still have the activists and pro-trans activists and members of Antifa up there. Looks like they're yelling at the police. Like, honestly, to be here try to explain what's happening here is very it's all over the place here, to be honest.
So that speaker keeps going. The Nazis are still there. Nazis still there. Speaker's still going. Anti-vax Anti-vax engaging with the counter-protesters. Oh, yeah, you can see here's the woman who's collapsed. There are cops around. She's essentially here, but there's no medical attention still. So in terms of like priorities to deal with, they always assume that the marshals have nothing to do and are just like sitting around with too much power. So that goes on for a bit. Nazis still there.
They need to go through double vasectomies and phylloplesties.
So I think at this point, yeah, the injured demonstrator gets carried off. I kind of put the symbol here, but I think she was actually further down the street, just away from the noise, essentially, to wait for the ambulance, from what I understand. She's still speaking. Yeah, the injured person has been carried off. That's all well and good from what I understand. The Nazis are still there. That's Catherine Deves has taken the mic. Then Kelly J. Keane gets back on. Then that must be when the Nazis decide to leave.
Welcome to Melbourne, Kelly J. Keane, and we're really pleased to have you in this land of having fun. This is a democracy. We should be able to speak our voices. Can you hear me? I've decided it's time to speak up. I've decided to stop speaking up for way worse. We women do not face something, and the other side is further and further.
So what's interesting here is you don't see any footage of them coming off the steps, and if anyone has some, I would love to see it. But what's interesting is the Nazis are coming off the steps, headed north to engage with these people, and this cop comes over and puts his hand out and essentially stops Tom Sewell by putting his hand on his chest. And kind of redirecting him, or at least Tom changes direction, and more police come from the north to redirect the Nazis. So there was this idea that they were like led around, and I don't think that's what actually happened. I think they were more abandoned, and the police were under-resourced. They should have had, like, they've got 8 horses up this end now at the moment. They should have had 8 horses for that end, 8 horses for across here, and then 4 more horses that were dedicated to the Nazis. Instead, they had 8 in total, which meant that it was very easy for them to run out of them when they needed more. And it's funny because at some point Sean says the Melbourne police can bring forth an unimaginable amount of violence, and that's true. So this was this seems to be a deliberate understaffing, or, you know, I don't know, maybe there's some budget thing I'm not aware of. So this is them leaving, antagonizing the counter-protesters as they leave. Someone throws a bottle. They come to a stop here and give one last salute. The police are struggling to sort of hold the line as this is happening. Again, I can't see where those blue cops. Maybe there's a few of them there. So they stop and salute them. And there's some comment that the speaker makes about them where I think she thinks they're communists, which is just evidence of her political naivety.
That she's something else and she shouldn't be tried to be persuaded by psychiatrists. She's something else. Let girls be tomboys.
So anyway, the Nazis leave. Some of the demonstrators try to follow them, but very few. It's not like this whole crowd is suddenly pushing to go south down Spring Street, or that they back down Burke Street and try to come around and cut off the Nazis.
Bro, they're throwing glass bottles at these guys.
Which side are you on?
Bro, I'm in the middle, man. I'm just getting both sides. Yeah? Say it again, man. Say it again. Why? What did you call me a Nazi for? What? For protesting lockdowns, I'm a Nazi? You're a white guy calling a Sri Lankan a Nazi. What's wrong with you, man? Are you a racist? Are you a racist? Why are you calling black people Nazis? Why are you calling Sri Lankans Nazis? Look at yourself, man. Look at yourself. Why are you walking up to me calling me a Nazi?
Right. So that speaker ends. Again, everyone's trying to pay attention to her and applaud and etc. So they're not paying attention to the Nazis. No one, people noticed as they walked past, but it wasn't anyone's real priority. So then there's more speakers. Eventually, what happens here? The ambulance arrives, and the ambulance comes through to pick up the injured demonstrator. Oh, there's some of the dark blue guys. So I don't know, maybe they were down there. Then that keeps going. There's more speakers. So at some point, the North protesters leave to come around back behind Burke to reinforce these protesters. So when they leave, all the horses and everything come down from where they had been at Spring Street. So here it is. They all you hear them arrive and see the red flags show up.
My name is Nina Valens. I'm an out and proud radical feminist, and I know that there are only two sexes. Okay, I'm going to give you a trigger warning. For people who are a little bit sensitive and care about things like natural justice, integrity, evidence-based policy, you might find my story a bit tough. I was a member of the Greens for over 10 years. In August 2019, I was emailed by the Greens misconduct panel telling me that they were investigating misconduct allegations against me. I appeared to have formed a women's lobby group called the Victorian Women's Guild, which was lobbying against the changes to birth certificate laws in Victoria. And apparently I'd also written a letter to The Age. I had to respond to these allegations, and I had no more detail than that. Principles of natural justice mean that you should know the substance of the complaints against you when you have to respond to them, but that's not how they do things in the Greens. Finally, after some pushing for particulars of the complaints, I found out that the letter to The Age was the one which said that the changes to the law could have profound implications for women's only spaces. And maybe women should pay this price of allowing men into women's sports. But we have a right to discuss this. I'd also been quoted in The Australian as saying that women who are survivors of domestic violence and who are prisoners have a right to women's only spaces. This apparently was misconduct. After a long and incompetent process whereby members of the misconduct panel emailed me their internal discussions about my complaint, because that's how competent they are, I was found to have brought the Greens into disrepute and to have vilified transgender people for insisting that women and men are not the same. I've never mentioned the Greens in my advocacy. No one could say that when you think of Nina Valens, you think that she represents the Greens. Who the fuck is Nina Valens, really? But nevertheless, I was suspended from the Greens for 6 months, which is the harshest sanction the Greens have ever handed down since the new misconduct process. There were 2 men who came before the misconduct panel for stalking Greens councillors. Guess what they got? They got a sanction of a censure, which is a slap on the wrist saying, tut tut, don't do that again. Jason Fernandez, who was the Assistant Secretary of the Greens, was found to have committed misconduct by leaking confidential information from the disputes panel in order to influence internal elections.
Okay, the guy in the stripy t-shirt.
Yeah. Guess what Jason Fernandez's censure was? He just got a censure.
It was a bit broken or something.
And lastly, I'd like to speak about Bianca Haven, B Haven, also known as the Haven system, pronouns she and it. He was found to have committed misconduct. He defended Nazis, he defended child rapists, and he defended incest on his Twitter feed. And these horrible comments were interwoven with lots of commentary about the internal processes and meetings of the Greens. The misconduct panel found that he risked to bring the Greens into disrepute. Not that he did, but just risked. And guess what his sanction was? He got a censure. They said, tut tut, we think you don't know how to use the internet properly. Shame on you, do better. I was suspended from the Greens for saying that women deserve women's only spaces, but a Nazi sympathiser remains in the Greens, is able to run for high positions within the Greens. Shame on the Greens. We are on the right side of history.